Beyond Good and Evil by Friedrich Nietzsche. A critical narrative and philosophical analysis. Introduction. A book written for free spirits. When Friedrich Nietzsche published Beyond Good and Evil in 1886, he presented it as a prelude to a future philosophy, one that would dismantle the moral, religious, and metaphysical foundations of European thought. The subtitle, Prelude to a Philosophy of the Future, signals that this is not merely critique but preparation. The book emerges after Thus Spoke Zarathustra, but unlike that poetic work, Beyond Good and Evil is sharper, aphoristic, analytical, and overtly polemical. Nietzsche is not writing a systematic treatise. Instead, he offers a sequence of 296 aphorisms in 9 major parts that dissect philosophy, religion, morality, science, politics, and culture. The tone alternates between satire, psychological insight, prophecy, and attack. The central aim is to move beyond good and evil, beyond the inherited moral binaries that structure Western thought. To critically narrate this work is not merely to summarize its sections, but to trace Nietzsche's unfolding argument that morality is not divine or rational, but human. Too human, rooted in drives, instincts, power relations, and historical contingencies. Part 1. On the Prejudices of Philosophers. Nietzsche opens with suspicion. He challenges the assumption that philosophers are seekers of truth. Instead, he argues, philosophers are creators of systems that express their own temperaments. Philosophy is autobiography disguised as logic. The attack on dogmatism from Plato to Kant. Western philosophers have constructed metaphysical systems that assume stable truths, fixed identities, and rational foundations. Nietzsche calls these prejudices. He critiques the belief in opposites, truth, error, good, evil, spirit, body, the belief in a thing in itself, the faith in reason as a disinterested faculty. He famously questions whether opposites are truly opposites. What if truth arises from error? What if morality grows from immorality? This destabilization undermines the entire metaphysical tradition. Critique of Kant. Though he does not mention him immediately, Nietzsche implicitly dismantles Immanuel Kant's moral philosophy. Kant's categorical imperative claims universal moral law grounded in rational autonomy. Nietzsche sees in this a disguised Christian morality, a continuation of ascetic ideals. Where Kant speaks of duty, Nietzsche hears resentment against life's instincts. The will to truth. One of the book's central themes emerges here, the will to truth. Why do we value truth? Why not illusion? Nietzsche suggests that the will to truth is itself a moral prejudice inherited from Christianity. It assumes that truth is good and deception bad. But life, he argues, often requires illusion. Thus, even science rests on moral faith. Part 2. The Free Spirit. Nietzsche introduces the free spirit as the thinker who has liberated himself from moral dogma and national identity. The free spirit is skeptical, embraces uncertainty, lives experimentally, rejects herd morality. But freedom here is not democratic equality. It is aristocratic independence. Nietzsche believes most people require moral frameworks for stability. Only rare individuals can endure radical questioning. Psychological depth. Nietzsche's innovation lies in psychological critique. Philosophers, systems, he claims, reveal unconscious drives. Philosophy is not neutral, it is sublimated instinct. This anticipates later thinkers like Freud, but Nietzsche's psychology is more existential than clinical. He sees drives, Trieb, as competing forces within the self. The self is not unified but plural. Part 3. The religious nature. Here Nietzsche analyzes religion, particularly Christianity. Christianity is slave morality. Christianity, for Nietzsche, emerges from the resentment of the weak against the strong. The powerless invert values. Strength becomes evil. Humility becomes good. Pride becomes sin. This inversion constitutes what Nietzsche calls a slave revolt in morality. Christianity elevates suffering, meekness, and self-denial. Nietzsche sees this as hostility toward life's vitality. The ascetic ideal, the religious ascetic, rejects earthly pleasures for spiritual salvation. Nietzsche interprets this as a will to power turned against the self. Instead of expressing strength outwardly, it becomes self-discipline, guilt, and repression. Yet Nietzsche is not merely dismissive. He recognizes religion's psychological power and artistic grandeur. Christianity created profound emotional depths, but at the cost of life affirmation. Part 4. Maxims and Interludes. This section contains sharp aphorisms, compressed philosophical grenades. Examples include reflections on women, love, scholars, artists, vanity, and truth. Many of these are controversial, especially his remarks on women, which reflect both 19th-century biases and Nietzsche's provocative style. Critically, this section demonstrates Nietzsche's method, destabilization through wit. Rather than build arguments step by step, he disrupts assumptions. Part 5. The Natural History of Morals. This is the intellectual core of the book. Nietzsche proposes that morality must be studied historically and psychologically, not as divine command or rational law. Master and slave morality. He distinguishes two fundamental moral types. Master morality originates in the strong values power, pride, nobility, good, means noble. High-born slave morality originates in the oppressed values humility, kindness, pity, good, means harmless. Compassionate slave morality triumphs through Christianity. It redefines morality as concern for the weak. Nietzsche does not simply advocate brutality. Rather, he critiques moral systems that deny excellence and strength in the name of equality. Part 6. We Scholars. Nietzsche criticizes scholars and scientists. He argues that scholars lack creative force. They accumulate facts but do not create values. True philosophers legislate values. He distinguishes between the scholar reactive, meticulous, the philosopher creative, commanding. In this sense, Nietzsche's philosopher resembles a cultural legislator. Part 7. Our Virtues. Nietzsche turns to modern European virtues: honesty, sympathy, equality. He sees modern Europe as democratic, secular, and leveling. While he appreciates intellectual honesty, he fears that egalitarianism suppresses greatness. He criticizes nationalism but also worries about cultural decline. Part 8. Peoples and Fatherlands. Nietzsche rejects nationalism and anti-Semitism. He criticizes German culture and praises Jewish resilience. He envisions a good European identity that transcends national boundaries. His perspective is complex, aristocratic yet cosmopolitan. Part 9. What is noble? The book culminates in a meditation on nobility. Nobility is not merely birth but spiritual rank. The noble individual creates values, affirms life, embraces suffering as growth, lives beyond resentment. This anticipates Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch from Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Central themes critically examined. 1. Beyond good and evil. The title suggests moral relativism, but Nietzsche is not simply saying morality is subjective. Instead, he seeks to move beyond simplistic binaries. He asks, who created these moral values? What psychological needs do they serve? His method is genealogical, later expanded in On the Genealogy of Morals. 2. The will to power. Though not systematically developed here, the will to power underlies Nietzsche's thought. Life is expansion, growth, overcoming. Morality is an expression of power dynamics. 3. Perspectivism. Nietzsche rejects objective, absolute truth. Knowledge is perspectival, shaped by standpoint. But perspectivism is not nihilism. It encourages creative reinterpretation. Critical evaluation strengthens psychological insight. Nietzsche anticipates modern depth psychology. Historical sensitivity. He recognizes morality as historically contingent. Literary brilliance. His aphoristic style challenges complacency. Critique of herd mentality. He exposes conformity masked as morality. Weaknesses. Elitism. His praise of aristocracy can appear anti-democratic. Ambiguity. His style resists systematic clarity. Gender bias. Some aphorisms about women are problematic. Political misuse. Though Nietzsche rejected nationalism, later ideologies misappropriated him. Nietzsche's legacy. Nietzsche influenced existentialism, Sartre, Camus, psychoanalysis, Freud, postmodernism, Foucault, Derrida. His critique of morality reshaped philosophy, literature, and cultural theory. Conclusion. A Dangerous Book. Beyond Good and Evil is not a manual for cruelty nor a defense of oppression. It is a call to intellectual courage. Nietzsche asks us to question the foundation of our values. Why do we believe what we believe? Who benefits from our morality? Can we create new values? The book destabilizes certainty and invites self-overcoming. To go beyond good and evil is not to abandon ethics, but to recognize that moral categories are human creations. In that recognition lies freedom and danger.